this lesson, we'll take a standard JPEG image and convert it into a stunning HDR in Photoshop. In this lesson, you'll learn how to set up your workspace for HDR editing, create free exposure variants of the same image, merge these exposures into an HDR composition, and apply final adjustments to enhance color. By the end, you'll have the skills to transform flat images into professional HDR images. Setting up the workspace. Before we start, let's ensure that our workspace is set up correctly. Go to Window, Workspace, Photography. When you switch to the Photography workspace, you should see this adjustment panel on the right. And from this point, we are ready to proceed. Preparing the image and creating exposure variants. Now, the first step is to open your JPEG image in Photoshop, which is available for download in the video description. Drag it into Photoshop until a new composition is open. Then, go to the Layers panel and unlock the image by selecting the padlock icon. Now, with this layer selected, create a folder and drag the image layer inside. Then, rename this folder to 0. Next, duplicate this folder by selecting it and pressing Command-J on Mac or Ctrl-J on Windows. Do this twice so that you have 2 duplicate folders. Rename the first to 1 and rename the other so it is -1. For now, hide the visibility of folder -1. Then, open folder 1, select the image layer, and then add an exposure adjustment layer. In the Properties window, select this icon to create a clipping mask. This action will bind the adjustment layer to the image layer. Then, set the exposure to 1. Now we can hide this Properties window and also minimize this folder. Next, let's make folder -1 visible again, open it, select the image layer, and then add an exposure adjustment layer. Again, in the Properties window, select this icon to create a clipping mask, and set the exposure to -1. So we have taken these steps to create free variants of the same image, one that is standard, overexposed, and underexposed. Rasterizing and exporting the exposure variants. Now, we need to rasterize these layers individually so that the adjustment layers are permanently ingrained. Select the first folder in the Layers panel, then press Command-E on Mac or Ctrl-E on Windows. This action rasterizes your selected layer into one flat layer. And also repeat this process for the other folders. With this done, let's save these layers individually by going to File, Export, Layers to Files. And in this export window, select the Browse button. And then select the save location as your desktop. Then create a new folder, here naming it Converted Images. Now select Open to make this the save location. Then in the file type, ensure that JPEG is selected. And that the JPEG quality is set to maximum. In this case, 12. Now all that's left to do is select Run. And wait for Photoshop to process and export these layers into files. When you see this success window, you'll know that the export is complete, merging the exposures into an HDR image. Moving on, let's close this Photoshop composition as it's no longer required and we do not need to save it. Now, go to File, Automate, Merge to HDR Pro. When this window opens, make sure that Files is selected from the drop-down menu. Then select the Browse button and navigate to the Converted Images folder. where you can select all the images that we have exported. You will see that the images were added, and now select OK. Now don't move your cursor and wait until this window is visible. You may not be able to select the OK button initially, so press the arrow keys to go through the images like this, forwards and backwards, and now you should be able to proceed. Select OK, and then this window will appear. We can see a preview of the images and settings on the right. Unfortunately, some color banding may appear in the sky, and we can fix that by ticking the Remove Ghosts option. At this point, we can select the images below, and you only need to pick one where the color banding is not visible. Then, in the settings on the right, we can make some adjustments. Set the edge glow radius to 300 pixels. Set the strength to 1. Then, in the tone and detail section, set the gamma to 0.9. Keep the exposure at 0, and set the detail to 30%. Now in the advanced section, keep the shadow, highlight and vibrance at 0%, and set the saturation to 15%. And now select OK, and wait for Photoshop to process this image. Post-processing and color adjustments. So the images are now combined into one, but we're not done yet. Start by unlocking the image layer by selecting the padlock icon. Then add a hue saturation adjustment layer. And in the properties window, select the red color icon and set the saturation to -30. Now close the properties window and again add a hue saturation adjustment layer. And now set the overall saturation to 35. Then close the properties window. Enhancing the skyline with a photo filter. The final step, which is an optional step that we can take, is to enhance the skyline by adding a photo filter to it. Start by selecting the photo filter adjustment layer by selecting this icon. Then in the properties window, make sure that it's set to color, and that the density is set to 100%. Also, make sure that Preserve Luminosity is selected. Then select the color icon here and enter this hex code. Now select OK, and that is the photo filter applied across the entire image. And now that the photo filter is applied across the entire image, we need to mask it so it's applicable only to the skyline. To do this, select the mask thumbnail icon. Now, press B on your keyboard to switch to the brush tool. Right-click with your mouse to open the brush properties panel and ensure that a soft round brush is selected, with a size of 800 pixels and hardness set to 0%. Then make sure the foreground color is set to black in the toolbar before you start painting. And now you can start painting from left to right, like this, to recover the original image colors. If you do make a mistake or want to add back the orange tint, change your foreground color to white, and this will allow you to paint it back. With this done, let's select the photo filter layer and reduce the opacity to 50%. Next, select the topmost layer in the Layers panel, hold Shift to select the bottom layer, let go of Shift and now create a new folder to group these layers together. Select the folder, then press Command J on Mac or Control J on Windows to duplicate this folder once. And now, only with this duplicate folder selected, right-click on it and select Convert to Smart Object. Now select the Smart Object layer and go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter. A new window will open where you can find the Effects tab. And in here, set the value of clarity to 20, and then set the value of dehaze to 20. Then select OK in the bottom right corner to apply these effects. Of course, a lot of these settings are predetermined for the purpose of this tutorial, but I highly encourage you to experiment with different values to see what works best for you. And with all of these steps out of the way, that's our image converted to HDR. And that's it, a simple but powerful process. It's incredible that we can take a standard JPEG image and convert it into an HDR photo. The difference in detail, depth, and overall visual impact is huge compared to the original. And the best part? This method is quick, easy, and something you can repeat whenever you need to. So now the question is, are you ready for the next lesson?